Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Take time to listen to the podcast. I really appreciate it. And because you've been such faithful listeners of the podcast, we've been ranked at the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you, really appreciate you for listening and doing that. And it would be a great help if you'd go ahead, rate, review, subscribe. I know you hear those words all the time, but it really makes a difference for the podcast. All right. Now, today, I'm talking to two amazing individuals. I am talking with Phyllis Dealy and Meaghan Benjamin. Now, let me tell you about them. They're the co-founders of Reinvent the World and Studio Reinvent, where they guide executives and teams with clarity, communication with purpose, and align strategy with impact. They approach and blend systems thinking. I'm already fascinated by that. Neuroscience, storytelling, and strategic facilitation. Imagine that. And I'll say a little bit about Phyllis and then about Meaghan. Phyllis is a serial entrepreneur and creator of the Awareness Factor, which we'll hear more about that. And she has worked with clients like PepsiCo, FridaBaby, Aetna, and Susan G. Komen. All right. And Meaghan is an executive communication coach who helps leaders elevate connection and influence using science-backed techniques like storytelling, brain coupling, and conscious listening. And I can't wait to hear more from both. Welcome, Meaghan and Phyllis.
Thank you so much, Robin. We're really excited to be here.
Yes, very excited to talk with you today.
So glad you're here. All right, so now you're co-founders of Reinvent the World and Studio Reinvent. All right, so help us place them. Are one in each, or you're both? Tell us how it's situated.
So Reinvent the World is a consulting firm, and we do work together there. But I sort of run that part of the business, and then Meaghan and I are co-founders of Studio Reinvent, which is the communications and training and coaching firm. So we work together across both businesses, but I think today we'd love to focus and talk about our communications training.
Love it. Okay, great. All right, so now I typically say when there's one person, so I'm going to do the same. Tell me a little bit, I read just a little bit, but tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do specifically. And you guys can go in whatever order. You might already have a system where who goes first.
Sure. I'm Meaghan, the blonde one.
Yeah.
And my background, I think of myself as a communication scientist. I have advanced degrees in speech and hearing science and psychology. And I really found my way into communication first by studying, but then ultimately being a healthcare provider, working with head and neck cancer patients, realizing that truly communication is so much more than just one piece. It's not just your voice. It's not just your gestures. It's all the things that work together. And that also lies in the mindset you have. So you can imagine if you've lost your voice due to cancer, shifting that mindset and being able to show up and connect with people in a different way is fundamentally critical in communication. And so that allowed me to really do a deep dive and ultimately see the expansion, I'd say, of this beyond just one population. And that led to this idea of working with Phyllis at Studio Reinvent to bring together some of that science with the storytelling. And so I'd say that's where we started, right?
Yeah, right. And my background is I've spent about 30 plus years in marketing, advertising, and brand strategy. And I pivoted out of doing that full time about 10 years ago to really start to work more deeply with leaders and with organizations, but partnered up with Meaghan because I love to take that storytelling and that idea of how do you show up? How do you want to show up in the world from the brand space into the personal space, and working with leaders to help sell in their brands, not just do the advertising part. So we really found some synergies together, bringing the science with the storytelling, and we just love what we do.
Yes. Yeah. And we developed a methodology called Agile Communication Methodology, because really it is all about agility. It's not a script. It's not a deck. It's all these levers that you can push and pull that we think we help people tap into, really.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. So I'd like to hear, I think my first time, I know I interviewed a group of three before, but not two business partners in this way. So I want to focus in on that because I'm imagining there's somebody who could be thinking about, hey, I wonder if I should partner with someone who I have synergy with. So let's focus on that for a moment, and then we'll take it from there. So how did you two decide to come together to work together?
By both being open, I'm going to say that. So Megan actually met my husband on an airplane,
and he said, "Oh my gosh, you've got to meet my wife." And I was like, "Here we go." But I was open.
And then, he's always he's like, "You got to meet this person and this person." He's like, "I met this woman on this airplane. She has 4 kids. We have 4 kids. He was just laying, and your energies are just so right. You've got to meet her." And so I called up Megan and we talked, and it was kind of like instant connection.
Within 10 minutes. Okay, could we do this? Could we do that? And then COVID hit and everything kind of went quiet because if you recall, as we all recall, suddenly you're just trying to figure out what's next. And for me, I already had this communication coaching business. So it was, how do you transition to Zoom? For Phyllis, it was navigating with clients. How do you get into that? And then I had a client come and say, "Can you help us build this program on communication that we can do completely virtually?" And I had a dream, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I said, "I got to call Phyllis Dealy and we're going to do this together." And by the way, 8 kids between us. It's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And I sent her a note. I said, "Hey, if you want to talk, I've got this opportunity." She said, "I'm calling you right now." And bam. And then that was it.
That's how we started. And we just dove into it, and we had our first client in 2 months.
2 months.
And we really haven't looked back.
Yes.
That's amazing. And tell your husband that we all said thank you.
Yeah, he reminds me all the time, I was the connection. I'm like, yeah, I know.
And he's in the mix. He's always sending notes like, "Hey, I thought about this. You guys could do that." So it's awesome to have so much support. And he's got a great sense of humor, which helps.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, you know, the podcast is Leadership Purpose. And so we're focusing on the career journeys and journey to purpose for people who have it. And so do you think this partnership is part of your purpose, so to speak, in your work?
I would say it's 100% part of our purpose. I think we both felt the passion separately. One of the things that's really nice about having a partner in purpose, which is what Megan is for me, and I think the same, is that you have a thought partner. You have somebody to bounce things off. You have somebody that you can call when you're like, this is a terrible day. And she'll say, "It's okay. You've got this." We sort of coach each other back and forth in different scenarios. And it is so helpful to keep us on the path, to keep us on the road, to keep moving forward. Because in life, if you're following your purpose, like you do have days where you're like, "Oh, I just got to go get a job," or "I just have to go do this," or "My kids had a really bad day, so I'm having a bad day." And so to have that partnership in that way is something, if you can find the right partner, right? That's the hard part. It's really magical.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother episode in finding the right partner. Okay, let's stay with this theme of purpose for a little while. All right. So how do you know you're in your purpose? Because think about women who are listening, they're like, "Well, where I am right now, and where I am in my life, not necessarily the place, maybe the place where they're working, but they're feeling like there must be more." And they're having this sense of there's something missing, but I can't quite put my finger on it. So hearing from you might help them get some clarity, just little hints here and there to help put the pieces together for them. So like, what does that even look like or feel like? How do you know you're in your purpose?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think Phyllis and I took different paths to get to where we are today, but I think I found my purpose early, which is this idea that I can work with other people to help them tap in to things they didn't know they had and really deliver that. And following that path through healthcare was really a critical place for me to learn. What's interesting though is I was thinking, so early on, I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm working, I'm helping others. And it's very focused on finding your voice, finding your impact, finding your influence. And then what are the levers you can push and pull? And then what do I want to do to expand that? Or how do I want to shift? And so what I'll say is, even if you find your purpose early, it might not be, you might do it one way for a while and then look and be open to shifts that you can make that allow you to tap into your own energy and yourself better. So if there's women that are listening right now that are like, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, that's common and totally normal. And maybe there's just some small shifts of what you're currently doing that can be a building block that suddenly makes you feel more fulfilled. It might not be a huge change, but just, oh, I'm going to take what I'm doing here, but I'm going to do it in a slightly different way or with a slightly different group. So I would not, overestimate the power or underestimate the power of very small shifts to have a big impact.
Yeah. And I think for me, like thinking about purpose, I went back, I actually saw in my yearbook that I was like, I'm going to be in advertising. I'm going to do whatever. And then I studied it and then I went and did it. And as I got more into it, it started to lose some meaning for me because it didn't have the depth of the transformation that I wanted to make and the kind of work. And so what I started doing is I knew I was making money doing that. So you can't just walk away from that career, right? I have 4 kids. I got to put people through college. I've got to put food, all that stuff. So I just started saying yes to small things. People like, hey, do you think you could come and teach some improv at this conference? Or, hey, do you think you could do some stuff? And I started doing stuff for free. I mean, I still to this day, I do a lot of stuff, like not as much as I used to, but if somebody says that they ask me to do something and it's interesting to me, I'll say yes. And it was through saying yes to things that lit me up, that seemed kind of interesting and challenging, that led me to where I am today. If I hadn't said yes to that conference 12 years ago, I don't know if I'd be right here today. It was that one yes, it's just a small pivot that puts you on a different path.
Yes.
Totally.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit for both of you, but okay, so right before that conference, before you were invited to do that conference, was there something in you that was already looking for something? What were some of the signs that you were ready to make a change? Because they might be having those signs.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Well, I think it's partly, we hear a lot about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, but I think if you have that growth mindset and curiosity, then you're always looking a little bit. You're always interested. That's something Phyllis and I have in common. I say yes to a lot of things as well that are interesting, get me excited, and are helping someone else, going to a conference, but also just say, hey, can you come in and help us think through this or do that? So if you have the bandwidth to try something, it oftentimes opens up that opportunity. And so a little bit's about that. Don't lose the spark of curiosity, even if it doesn't fit with exactly what you're doing right now. I think many times people expect that they have to fit into this box. Even for me, people say, oh, you're a speech pathologist, you study psychology. How does that translate into storytelling for businesses? Well, let me tell you, it does, because it comes down to this human connection piece. And if I can help people be better at connecting with others, then that's going to drive them. But I could have done 10 other things with that same degree and background. So maybe it's the idea of curiosity, trying things, even if it doesn't fit exactly with what you think you're supposed to be doing.
And just listen to yourself. So many people are willing to give you advice. By the way, much of it's bad, right? That's what they think you should be doing. And so I think we sometimes we turn outward for that instinct, like, is this the right thing? There's a lot of answers inside of us if we tune in to our own instinct. And if you're having an instinct like, I don't know, I have a feeling, but I can't articulate it, like, just tune into the feeling and then allow that feeling to get curious.
And then take one small step. It doesn't have to be a big step. Those small steps just starts to open up maybe a slightly different path, a slight pivot, and then you never know what's going to happen.
Yes, yes. Either of you, or maybe both of you, experience the sense of struggle about it Or did you just stumble upon this, what you're sharing with us now about your purpose being fulfilled in this sort of happy place, so to speak? Did you set up a plan and say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and voila, now I am fulfilled with my purpose? Or did you stumble across it? Or was there a struggle and you figured it out? How did it happen?
All the things, Robin, all the
Oh,
things.
so people, it
There
could be
was
relatable to others.
stumble, there was stumble, there was struggle. And even when you find excited about what we're doing, we love it. We just did a workshop yesterday. I mean, everyone's happy, they leave. And today we're together saying, okay, what could we do differently? What didn't we think about? Is this, and I'd say what, 4 times a year we say, are we doing this right? Like, I don't know. Do we have to change something?
Yeah.
We had that conversation a couple months ago. And I think if you're not questioning and trying to figure out, is this right? If you expect it to always feel like you're in the right spot, then you're probably not.
Yeah. And I think there was a lot of discovery and a lot of stumbling, and then something emerges and you're like, okay, I like that, right? And then that becomes something. And then you sort of stumble around and trying to find your way and like, oh, there's another one. Like we now have sort of 3 products that we offer. But when we started, we're like, let's just get in a room and teach. You know, it wasn't a clear vision. It was a feeling that we acted on. And then over the last 5 years, it has devolved. So if you look at our business today, I don't think that we could have we couldn't have said, oh, that's going to be our business in 5 years. It just didn't work like that because it was very organic and intuitive and instinctive. And, you know, we just allowed things to emerge.
And we let things go. And we probably said yes to some things we should not have. That's how you learn, right? I mean, so there's always a little bit of that stumble and definitely a struggle. And is this right? Could it be different? Could it be better?
Sounds like you're able to move forward by focusing on what you can do in the moment, saying yes and doing that thing. And then you would learn whether to keep going and then yes to the next thing and yes to the next thing. And before you know it, look, years later, what you have right now. It sounds like it's a process, an ongoing process.
Yeah,
for sure.
We say a lot in our workshops. You want to be what we have right now is now. It's right here today, right? So if you're always thinking about, oh, I could have made that decision, or I should have done that, or maybe someday I'll be you're going to miss the moment. So how can you be present for what's possible in this moment? And by holding on to that, number one, you can really tap into joy, because in this moment we can all choose to be joyful, and we can embrace what is right in front of us. And we have found a lot of power and clarity in that practice.
Yes. And Phyllis taught me something which has been so helpful, which is I'm from New Jersey, right? Like I'm like, bam, 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 let's do this. She says, Meaghan, sometimes we have to go slow to go fast. And so I think that's a really valuable lesson, because sometimes it doesn't go as quickly as you expected, but that slow part is where you're building, you're trying. And then all of a sudden you get to the place where like, okay, we can go. And I think that showed up in our partnership and then in some of the things that we pursued over the years.
Yes, it's good to have that balance and the 2 personality types to help each other and bounce off of each one. Yeah, it sounds like that worked really well. You 2 have been dropping nuggets the whole way of just here's some advice, some gold nuggets that we can take with us. And you've been generous with your time, and I know the time is getting close to where you have to take off. But is there anything else that I didn't get a chance to ask you that deliberately focuses on that woman who's trying to find her way toward fulfillment and purpose? She has the success. She checked all the boxes. She has, by other folks' standards, she has arrived, but now she's looking for more. What's something each of you could leave her before we tell people how they can get in touch with you?
The first thing I just want to say is it's okay to want more. So many people say, like, you have this and don't you have enough? And isn't that enough? And you know, it's okay to be ambitious, and it's okay to want more, and it's okay to say, I'm going to push harder and develop harder. So first of all, for anybody who's feeling bad that they want more, don't feel bad. Like, grab it, right? The other piece of advice I would say is, even if you don't have a partner, right? Like, I feel very fortunate to have Meaghan. There are groups out there. There are other women who are going through the same thing. Find a cohort, find a group of people. And if you can't find one to join, create one. Invite some people who you know are interested and who want more, who are looking for that purpose. Something about community is it's really powerful. And you know, we all need those people who are rooting for us. And so those would be my 2 pieces of advice. Don't be afraid to want more, and go find a group that also wants the same.
Love that. I think I'm going to follow that. And I would say, in addition to what Phyllis said, I do think as you're trying to figure it out, communication is a superpower, and human connection is really what opens up opportunities that you didn't see coming. And so look beyond your current circle. Who are the people you can connect with beyond that? And it doesn't mean you need something from them, but making those connections, talking to them, engaging with them, you know, joining a club, like there's the Economic Club in Chicago, or, you know, something like that, where you're just exposed and discussing different topics, oftentimes opens up a path that you couldn't have gotten to if you tried to go for it. And so I would say, just look for those points of connection beyond your inner circle that are potentially going to offer you something different than you had.
Yes, I mean, we couldn't end any better than that, Meaghan and Phyllis. Tell people where they can be in touch with you if they want to hear more.
Yeah, well, you can check out our website, it's studioreinvent.com, and follow us on LinkedIn. We love to have followers. We're putting content out all the time.
Yes.
About communications, about agile communication, about listening, about the power of confidence. So we'd love to have people follow us and connect with us on LinkedIn.
100%.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your generosity and your insights. It was a delight to see partners coming together and really making a difference.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for having
us.
Okay, everyone. And I encourage you, I'd love to hear what you got from this episode. Any insights and takeaways? I'd love for you to go on over to social media. I'm on all the channels, but I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. So head on over to LinkedIn and let me know. Follow me and send me a message. Let me know what you thought of the episode. I'm at Robin L. Owens, PhD, Robin L. Owens, PhD. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.